What's up, guys? It's your boy Allende from Authentic Alphas. And real quick, I wanted to share my response to a Jordan Peterson clip that I came across. The reason why I thought this would be interesting is because it's probably the only time that I've heard him say something that I actually disagree with. So let's get into it real quick, just see what he said and my thoughts on it.
And it's not surprising because women have more at stake sexually than men do, per episode, because men don't get pregnant, obviously. And so that female pickiness that's the case. That's definitely true. Whether it's worse now or not, I doubt if it is. I would say to young men who are irritated at women is, if you're irritated at women, as a class of creature, there's something wrong with you because they're right. You're wrong. They're right to not pick you. If they're not picking you, it's because they're right.
The part that I guess would trigger most guys is they're right, you're wrong. So yeah, when you're told that women are right and men are wrong, so that is definitely not something we need to hear more of, and we don't expect to hear that from Mr. Jordan. So from the top, I do agree with him, obviously, that women have more at stake, when it comes to sexual encounters and, being sexually active. Obviously, they have more at stake biologically, you know what I mean? As far as getting pregnant, having to go through childbirth and all that kind of stuff, carrying the baby for 9 months. Yeah, that's a bit of an inconvenience for a thought. But using the word more, I think, is controversial in the sense of men have a lot to lose too. I mean, ever heard of family court? Divorce is pretty costly, so to speak. So, who has more or less? I don't think you could really use those terms. I think you have to kind of say women have more at stake physically, biologically, but then of course men have more at stake financially. And then also they might not be able to have time, and access to their child, which of course is like emotional cost. That's pretty stressful, not being able to see your kid. So again, I kind of agree with that, women have more at stake on one side, but I don't think they have more at stake in general. There's plenty of areas where men have more at stake when it comes to interacting with the opposite sex. Now, the next thing is he said that, this women's pickiness, I guess, kind of biologically developed from the fact that they have more to risk and more at stake. Because, of course, biologically, divorce and divorce court and family court and all that stuff doesn't exist in nature. So in those terms, I could see how women would be the more that have at stake and more to lose, and that's why they would be biologically wired to be picky and to be selective with their mates, which I don't think women really are in a sound way that equates to the modern day. You know what I mean? So now, speaking about their pickiness, he went on to say, is it worse? And then he said, I don't think so. Now, that's the part where I'm like, whoa, slow down. Women's pickiness definitely is worse current day than it was 10 years ago. And it was worse 10 years ago than it was 20 years ago. And it was worse 20 years ago than it was 30 years ago, and so on. You see the pattern. So their pickiness and expectation definitely increases as time goes on. But that's human nature. We can't really single women out and blame them for that. Like, oh my God, they're so greedy and it's never enough. I think all humans have a higher expectation as time goes on and more things become available to us. I mean, look at the attention span that people have nowadays versus, 50 years ago when everything took a little bit longer. So now we want everything instant. Everything that we have is an instant gratification type of scenario. And everything that they usher it in under the pretense of convenience most of the time. It's faster, easier, cheaper. So there's always those ERs at the end, and we're always losing something on the other end, right? So, women wanting more nowadays I don't think it's too different than men wanting more nowadays. The only difference is women want more from men as well, whereas men are actually getting less from women these days. I don't think men want less from women. I think that's just the way the cookie is crumbling right now. And I think women are getting less from men nowadays. They want more from men, but they're not necessarily getting it. They have these high expectations. They're super picky and all that, but let's be realistic. They're not getting, what they're whining about. They're not getting these guys that are 6'2" and plus and making the 100K a year and whatever. They're not actually getting that. There aren't even that many of those guys going around. So when the women say that, my next question or rebuttal is, always tell me about the guys you've dated in the past. And usually the guys they've dated in the past are nothing like the guy that they're describing. So they act as if they date guys that make over $100,000 a year. Like that's their, history. Like my last 3 boyfriends made over $100K a year and they didn't. So what makes you all of a sudden worthy or, entitled to that guy? You don't even have any experience dating those type of guys, right? So the pickiness part, I agree that it definitely exists. But I disagree that it's not worse. I think it's definitely worse nowadays. It's definitely a cat that's out of the bag and it's going unchecked. So the next thing is, women are right and men are wrong. That one I think is interesting because a lot of guys, have, incorrect perceptions of things. They misunderstand a lot of things. They've been misled. They're confused about a lot of things. But generally speaking, I think there's a lot more aspects of life as well as relationships that women are wrong about than men. And also, it's a lot easier to correct men. It's a lot easier to say, no, actually, it's like this. And actually, this is supposed to be like this. And actually, this is like this because of this. It's a lot easier to explain things to men and they accept it. They can look at it and say, oh, okay, I didn't know, but now I know. Now I see it. Whereas women, man, you can have textbook, thick, evidence for them and they're still going to fight you on it. They're still going to be stubborn. They're still going to insist on, clinging steadfast to their miseducation and their programming and their conditioning, which really only hurts them in the long run because they're not going to get what it is they think they're supposed to get or what they are entitled to or what they deserve. They're not going to get it. And the sad thing is they're not going to know why they didn't get it. They're going to be bitter and blame everyone else. And if they were willing to be open to the truth and to readjust and recalibrate their sense of reality, they actually would be a hell of a lot better off because they'd first understand that their expectations aren't even probable, let alone realistic. And that's what's going to cause the unhappiness, is expecting so much more than what you're actually going to get. And then also not even knowing how to actively get what it is that you want. Women are very lazy and very dormant when it comes to actually doing things to meet the guy that they think that they want, or to actually appeal to the guy that they want, to satisfy the type of guy that they want. They're not really active with it. They kind of just think, I'll just let this guy sleep with me because I think that he's good enough. And it's like, all right, well, who says that he's going to stay with you after you sleep with him? So they act like that's the only bait that's required is access to them. So that's pretty much it, man. I usually dig what Jordan Peterson has to say, but this time around, I think he's just simply out of touch with current dating. I don't think he's really been out here dating girls in their mid 20s, early 30s. You know what I mean? I don't think he's really familiar with that age demographic, anywhere from 18 to say 40, current day. So I think what happened is he's a little bit dated in his views and opinions on it. And that's pretty much what it is. Oh, and one more thing. The whole, like, if they don't choose you, they don't pick you, like, the problem is you. That's tough. I think there is a portion of guys where it's like they're unhappy, they're unsatisfied, they're getting terrible results with females. But it's like, dude, what the heck are you doing to stand out? Like, what are you doing to be a choice? Like, what are you doing to be selected? Absolutely nothing. So, like, quit your whining and, figure out what you can work on. But then there also is a group of guys who do have a lot to offer, who are relatively good looking, who are keeping themselves in shape and taking care of themselves. They are, gentlemen. They are good company. They're all of these things, and they're also striking out. If anything, they just might have a shot to get exploited, to get used and passed up for a woman's pursuit of, I guess what she thinks is male perfection or whatever. So there's a lot going on with that, but I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys. I thought that was a little bit shocking that he said that, and I'm sure he pissed a few guys off with that whole "they're right, you're wrong" thing. But anyway, guys, keep it moving.